It's a special John Lund Unleashed 49ers Camp Report edition. Shout out to Lund loyalists watching on YouTube, those watching on X, Instagram, Facebook, and JohnLundUnleashed.com, and the Lund Lunatics listening to the podcast on Apple and Spotify. Make sure to subscribe and like John Lund Unleashed on YouTube and keep those alerts on so you don't miss anything. Now with the latest on the 49ers and the NFL, here's Johnny.
What's happening? Long time no see. Thank you so much for joining us for episode 221 as we go into the last week of Niners camp and a ton to talk about. It always seems like we're talking about injuries, and now, of course, it gets to the phase when the Niners have these injuries, and under Kyle, they have a lot of them. Why did they get so many injuries? The training staff, all that kind of stuff. So we shall discuss. Ton to get to today. We appreciate you hanging out on a Monday, as you can see right there on the chalkboard, episode 221. I'll go through that in a second. But thanks for joining us on John Lund Unleashed on YouTube. All you got to do is subscribe. If you're watching on X or Instagram or the various sports collective, you can be watching on LinkedIn, Facebook, however you want to do it. That is absolutely great. I'm not going to tell you to not watch on those platforms, but we certainly would love if you upgraded and came over to John Lund Unleashed on YouTube. And you come on over here. There's a great chat room. We have a tremendous community with a lot of fun people, and we just sit and we just talk and put sports in their proper perspective. But we put stuff out there during the day, so make sure that you not only subscribe to John Lund Unleashed on YouTube, but keep those alerts on so that you know when we're going to be on, and we're not just on when we're live. We have other stuff as well. And then, of course, hit the like button so that the algorithm says, hey, not a half bad show, and we can grow the community. That's all that we ask for, all of this fun entertainment and information and such that we give you on John Lund Unleashed. So thank you so much for joining us, and we will start recapping a little bit of Saturday, but injuries and what's ahead this week, what to watch for, all those kind of things as the Niners have the Chargers coming up at Levi's Stadium, and then they get a week, well, not off, but then you get a week before you go to Seattle for week number one. And the question is, and you saw the beginning is, can they be healthy for week one? I wouldn't play anybody. I told you I wouldn't have played anybody against the Raiders. No injuries are worth it. Now, along the offensive line, I'm not complaining because they played Dominic Pooney because you can't rest everybody, and the offensive line really needs continuity. So those things are going to happen. You got hurt on a field goal. Those things, when people think about how guys get hurt, they all are just like, oh, it's got to be Kyle, and it's got to be the training staff, and it's got to be, well, sometimes just injuries are injuries. And that's just what happened. Kiner's injury is a high ankle sprain. What are you going to do? Pooney's a knee on a field goal. What are you going to do? Some things you can question, other things you can't. So we'll get into those things. Why the injuries? Add Pooney and Kiner as the latest. Watching this week and watching the injury-wise, like I said, Pooney, Barch is a big deal. We'll tell you why in just a second. Renardo Green still not back, and I told you a couple of weeks ago about that. Wide receivers and running backs, very thin. Mikael Williams still not back. I thought it was going to be a week. I told you right at the time it was at least going to be 2, and that's what it's at least been. CJ West as well. Could he be open or be ready by the opener? And they're missing precious time. Even if they do come back, talking about Mikael Williams, CJ West, even now it's kind of been a longer process than we thought for a guy like Upton Stout, who was crushing it. And all of a sudden, with the way that Chase Lucas is playing in the slot, it's like, look, Upton Stout's great, but he's missing both preseason games. He's missing a lot of reps. So your first-round pick, your third-round pick, your fifth-round pick, they're all missing time. Kiner, a free agent, you're sitting there going, man, we need a lot from these rookies this year. Nick Martin stepped up in this game, but Alfred Collins has a long way to go. We're starting to see that. So anyway, a ton to get to. Jake Moody there as well. Debo Samuel was playing tonight, so we got the NFL wire. So a little bit of Debo for you. Joe Flacco starting for Cleveland with their 4 quarterbacks that they're going to keep. Trey Hendrickson, he was never going to be a 49er. They're getting closer, but they're still not there as far as the cheap-ass Bengals are concerned. So we'll get into all of those things. Remember, questions, comments, or thoughts, you can hit us on the chat line, or if you're watching later, just hit me right underneath here. And with your questions, comments, and thoughts, I'll get back to you. Same with X. If you're watching on X, I'm on X often. So at John Lund Radio, you're watching on Instagram, good evening to you. At John Lund Radio there as well. So however you're watching, but we would love to see you over at John Lund Unleashed on YouTube. It is great to see people. Pine Needle is here. Bill is here. John Joseph, our very good friends, our East Coast friends, East Coast Red and Gold podcast, do an amazing job. And I know that we're going to put together some sort of a collaboration effort. I believe it's on the 27th. So that's going to be a lot of fun. They are great people. Make sure that you've got that on your board as well. The Giants are winning. The Giants are winning. The Giants are winning. I just saw on trending too that the Red Sox fans hate Jordan Hicks. I think he has 14 earned runs in 14 innings pitched for the Red Sox. Just to let you know, that's not good. It's Pine's birthday. Yeah, I'm not a singer. I would sing, but you've heard it before, and I would probably ruin it, so that sucks. So I'll just pass on singing. But happy birthday to you. But I'm just not going to sing. The 420 is here. Dom is our friend. He is here. It's great to see you, my friend. Who else? John Joseph was in here early. John Harder is here today. Very cool, man. Right here in the chat room. If you go over to John Lund Unleashed and hit the chat room, Johnny Tsunami, what's up, you tripping? It's really good to see you. It is really good to see Christopher. Thank you, Chris. It is great to see you, my friend. Who else do we have in here? All sorts of stuff today. All right. If I did not acknowledge you, believe me, I will at some point. Alex, good evening to you. Great to see everybody tonight. So we have a lot to do. If you got questions, comments, thoughts, very cool. Or if you just want to chat away, that is fine too. So let's start at the top. Why the injuries? I get hit up on that. And every way that you can hit me up, and they ask, why the injuries, why the injuries, why the injuries? We've been answering this question ever since Kyle took over the 49ers, and there's one reason, and then there's bad luck. I think it's a combination of both. So first of all, one of the reasons why the 49ers suffer more injuries than any other team, that despite the fact that from the time that even I started covering the league 25 years ago versus now, the camps are laughable in terms of just how much easier they are. They did full pads. They did 2-a-day practices in the sun. They did, it was brutal. And, even Harbaugh's practices go back to like 2000, right when he got here, 2011, 2012. I mean, we were out there just baking in the sun for like 3 hours at a time. Now they're half that. But when they are out there, the Niners, as far as comparing apples to apples, which is training camps right now, they run one of the harder camps. It's not like they practice hard during the week or anything, but they are a team that more than any other team, I think, and I've talked to a lot of my friends about this too, who cover other teams, they practice hard. They play hard. Kyle just has that philosophy. Their running backs, for example, why do they run through so many running backs? 1 foot in the ground, get up the field. They're not Niners running backs. They don't dance. They're not dancing in the hole. They're not running around people. They're trying to run through people. They're trying to be physical. It's a physical running style. So they want to play a physical brand of football, and that takes its toll. That's just a fact. That's what the 49ers do. That's Kyle's philosophy. And so they go through a lot of players, especially running backs. George Kittle only has 1 speed. I mean, you wonder why these guys get hurt so much. A lot of the Niners have 1 speed. So some of it is that. It's not just one thing. It's like anything in life, right? It's never one thing. So that's part of it. But some of it is bad luck. I mean, Dominic Pooney on a field goal gets his knee injured. Is that on Kyle Shanahan? Not to me. A high ankle sprain for Kiner in the Raiders game. He's playing running back. That's not a Kyle injury. So look, it's a combination of things. But as far as like Brandon Ayuk is concerned, is that ACL on Kyle? No. Alfred Collins came in and he was a little slow, and was that on him? Our knee injuries, which are freak knee hyperextensions. Mikael Williams is doing a drill that everybody in the league does. Hyperextends his knee. CJ West is doing the same type of drill. Hyperextends his knee. That's not on Kyle. That's not on the way that they do things. Some of these things are just bad luck so far. A hamstring gets pulled. Renardo Green and Jacob Cowling. And, they seem to, I'll say this, they seem to have more muscle injuries groin, hamstring, things like that than other teams. But I don't know that that's documented. I'm just, we're around this team. And so, yeah, they're one of the more injured teams right now. Kyle Shanahan, and I'll play some of this for you from Saturday. Kyle Shanahan reiterated over and over and over and over again, none of these injuries you're out for the season. Ayuk is the most significant injury. We'll get into him running around on the field and what that means. I'll explain because everybody got so excited. But, it's some of it's just bad luck. Some of it they do a little bit harder. Muscle injuries, if you wanted to question that and how they're conditioning that, you could. But right now, I mean, if you just look at it, muscle injury for Cowing, muscle injury for Renardo Green. Upton Stout is dealing with that kind of thing. But when you're talking about high ankle sprains, which they've had a couple so far, Kiner's got one, Jordan Watkins got one. That's not on the 49ers. That's just bad luck. When you have hyperextend your knee, like Weston McKell Williams did, that's not on the 49ers. That's on bad luck. Those are drills that, like, they're not doing anything differently than anybody else in the league is doing. So some of it's bad luck. A little bit I'll attribute to the way that they do things, which is a little bit harder than other teams do, but it's not appreciably more. And it's football. It's not like the other sports. You are going to get hurt. It's just a matter of who, at what point of the season, and can they come back? And we know this after watching the Niners for years and years and years, especially under Kyle Shanahan. It's just a matter of if they can get healthy. So what he likes to do, and he says this and has said this since he's got here, likes to build up the callus, right? Likes to build up the callus. And what that hopefully does is near the end of the season, you've got it all built up, you're healthy, and you're going into the most critical point of the season. Well, for everybody who's complaining that this is all on Kyle, well, go look at his December record. It kind of works. I mean, it's not great right now. And if a couple of these guys, the most concerned I am about anybody really is Renardo Green. I mean, the Renardo Green thing, they don't have a backup corner, man. They don't. And if they've got somebody out there that is not up to speed, and I know Demo got run over, whatever, but Demo got run over by a reindeer. But the other corner spot, man, we know the receivers aren't great right now as far as depth, but you start looking at corners, you start looking at beyond McCaffrey, all these kind of things. So there is a ton of stuff. In fact, there's kind of a health report right there. I mean, that's nasty. Pooney and Barch, Kiner, Taylor Jr., Jordan James, Garendo. Nye goes on IR. Wes McKell Williams, Bosa, that's still weird for me. He's getting held out of a lot, so they can say what they want to say, but you can officially put your rabbit ears up on Bosa because that's, you can only say so much. Oh, he's missing this. Yeah, he's missed like 5 straight practices in a game now. So there's something. Givens is long-term. Elliott, they got to get him back because I think he's going to be a starter. Gross Matos, I thought he was going to be back sooner, but he might be a pup guy. That's why I put that there. Ayuk, 10 to 12 is probably too long. He's going to be on the pup for the first 4. I'd say maybe week 6. Watkins, the high ankle sprain. Juwan Jennings, that weird situation. Cowing coming back. Pearsall's fine. And then in the secondary, Trey Brown, add that on there. Lenore's fine. Grant, Pinnock is kind of a concern. And then throw on there Renardo Green as well. So, I mean, that's a boatload of injuries at this point of training camp when you should be able to control a little bit more of what's going on. So here's Kyle on Saturday night with the major injuries after the game.
Never returned. It'll be a few weeks, possible PCL. Patrick Taylor dislocated a shoulder. He'll be out a couple weeks. Corey Kiner had a high ankle, most likely high ankle. Same thing with him. Go ahead.
All right, so you go. There's Kyle talking about all the injuries, and we do this all the time, and I wish we didn't have to because I didn't want to start the show with the injuries, but that's the number one thing going on with the 49ers right now. And as I wrote right there on the chalkboard, watching Pooney. Pooney and Barch, and we saw Connor Colby, who this is what I told you was going to happen before the game. I told you this on Friday, that they were going to challenge Connor Colby more, that he played well in the first preseason game. So what do you do, especially at that position where you might need him with Barch having a couple of injuries to start this thing? You move him up against better competition. What happened when they moved him up against better competition? He sucked. He's not ready. They may have to put him at left guard, but I'm just saying he didn't play well against the Raiders like he did a bunch of guys who are going to be driving a UPS truck. No offense, but guys who aren't going to be in the NFL in 2 weeks, he did well against those guys. When they upped the competition, he wasn't ready to go. Doesn't mean that he can't be, just means right now that he's not. So that's what's going on. Pooney is really irreplaceable. I mean, they don't have a lot of guards, and then we already know what's going on at center. So if the interior of the offensive line, if Bart somehow can't go and you got to go with somebody else, if Pooney misses that first game, and it's critical because it's at Seattle, the interior of that offensive line is going to be eaten up. Because I know a lot of people don't like Seattle, but Myron Murphy has looked good. Their first round pick from a year ago. They've fortified that defensive line. They're going to be tough to handle, even if the 49ers offensive line is healthy. And now we're talking about Pooney and Barch and all that kind of stuff. And then on the other side, I've already told you, Renardo Green, that one scares the hell out of me because nobody has stepped up and shown depth at corner to me. I mean, there was a couple of guys, Jacob Robinson, he's undersized, but so those are the guys that I'm watching. And then, of course, wide receivers, we talked about it a million times, not going to do it again. Running backs, really the only healthy running back right now is McCaffrey, and he's fine with that, but you don't want that. And then, like I said, they can say all they want about it's just a hyperextended knee, but McKen Williams isn't back. And it's been now a couple of weeks. CJ West just hyperextended his knee. That's probably going to be a couple of weeks. So we'll see on those two guys. Now, that's all the bad stuff, right? Those are the injuries and all that. And I don't really want to talk about it a ton, but it has to be talked about, and that's where everything is. Now, from Saturday night, the good and the bad, there's no doubt that I don't know, maybe it's not the number one good, but certainly if I'm a 49ers fan, I feel great about this. The connection from offseason to now, and yeah, there was a little hiccup because Pearsall was banged up a little bit at the beginning of camp, but you can tell that Brock Purdy and Ricky Pearsall are starting to cook. Here's Brock talking about it post-game.
Just to be able to go live against another defense in a game situation, and I mean, obviously we have them in our playbook to, hit him on certain things, but the defense obviously has to give us the right looks for that and stuff. But I thought he did a great job overall, like just getting him the ball in some space, and there were certain routes, all the routes that we threw to him were a little different, but it was cool seeing him being able to work each one differently, and each route was different based off of like coverage and the look, and so I thought it was great work for both of us to get in some live action and be able to connect on that in the heat of the moment, which was awesome. So we're just going to continue to build and get better together. And but I definitely thought it was great just working with him this off season and everything, and camp, and then finally going out in a game situation and seeing the results, which was awesome. So
I've said this forever, that people think that maybe the off season or certain times are overrated in getting on the same page. You can tell that it's almost a telepathic thing with Brock and Ricky, and I've explained this a million times, and you already know, but I'll just do it one more time, which is, Brock Purdy drops in the pocket. He's got all these different route combinations, and they've got to be reading the same thing. And if this, outside leverage you cut in, inside leverage you cut out, maybe there's, maybe you're going to go deeper. You got to be reading that. And he's having 300-pound man try to rip off his face. And he's got to make those adjustments in real time. And so when you've worked that way and you have confidence that Ricky's going to be in a certain spot, in the video that everybody's showing around, he threw Ricky open in the middle of 3 Raiders defenders. And if you don't have confidence in the player, in the receiver, and you haven't worked together enough, you're not throwing that ball, because you're thinking to yourself, well, if Ricky's not where he's supposed to be, the ball's getting picked, so I'm not throwing it. But you can tell he's on that page, and they're telepathic at this point. So that is a huge thing. And if I was going to take one thing, and there were better things out of it, but I was going to take one thing out of that game from a positive standpoint, it's Brock. It's Brock to Ricky Pearsall. So stay healthy, Ricky. And then, if Jawan Jennings can come back, and we're still not hearing anything on that, but okay, Jennings, Pearsall, maybe it's Gage, maybe it's Hodgins, maybe it's, whoever is healthy, that becomes the third. And then you start thinking about it. Okay, McCaffrey, Kittle, like they'll have enough. It's just, they'll be short a receiver. And then when Ayuk comes back, think about that. Ayuk, Pearsall, Jennings, they go from all of a sudden one of the most questionable wide receiver cores in the NFL to, if it's Ayuk and he's playing like he can play, with Pearsall, who we're starting to see the connection between he and Brock and all the work they've put in the offseason. And then Jennings, who that's really his best role. He's not best as a 1. He's best as a 2 or a 3. And now the defense is going, damn, we got these 3 wide receivers to deal with, and we got McCaffrey in the backfield, we got Kittle. We're like, Now, that's not going to be the beginning of the season. But if you've got a number 1 receiver that you at least have to keep your eyes on, like right now, in a few weeks, Seattle's thinking to themselves, okay, is Pearsall somebody that we at least have to, not necessarily put a safety over the top, but is he going to kill us if it's one-on-one coverage? Because remember, they use Witherspoon, their best corner, in the slot most of the time. It's kind of an unusual setup. Tariq Woolen's in a final year of a contract. He's super fast. He's going to be a guy that's going to be out there as well. But, can Pearsall at least make the defense kind of keep their eyes that way to open up a few things for other guys? Maybe. Right now, that's what's looking good. So that was one of the things that I took away, and probably the number 1 thing as far as the positives. You can see they're under good Brock to Pearsall. The other thing is, and I got to give him his flowers because I was all over him when he was terrible in week 1 of the preseason, and I labeled and stamped Nick Martinez play next year, because he looked like D Winters last year in the first preseason game. He was getting there. He's fast. He can shed blocks, especially for a guy his size. But then when he got there, it was like, how do I do this? He didn't break down to tackle, all that. And in camp nowadays, you're not hardly ever tackling to the ground. So I don't know how you get better. But Nick Martin did a 180. I mean, he had 6 tackles. I don't know if you watched the Raiders broadcast back, but Max Crosby was getting interviewed on the sidelines, and Genty caught a short pass out of the backfield, and Nick Martin smoked him. And it got the attention of Crosby. Like, whoa. So he looked faster, more confident. He broke down when he got to the ball, which he wasn't doing. And I thought, you know what? I just saw D Winters do this for an entire year. Nick Martin's going to do it for an entire year. So he's not beating out Winters. That's not the issue. The issue, and Fred Warner has said this before, the three linebacker spots are fairly interchangeable. So maybe Nick Martin is going to be on the strong side. Now that position maybe plays, 25%, 30%, depending on who you're playing on that particular day. So it's not on the field as much, but that's a good step forward for Nick Martin, and nice job by him. So on the good, Brock, Pearsall, Nick Martin, Huff, I've been telling you all through camp, Bryce Huff is going to be a problem. And hopefully Mikael Williams can get back. And when they move him inside opposite Bosa get healthy, Huff just showed you some of the speed that he has. Tatum Bethune, before we give that third spot to Martin, Bethune has been really consistent in camp. It's hard to tell when they're not going to the ground, but Bethune, another guy that I really liked, not only in this game, but I've liked through camp, wearing 48. You know that Fred Warner wore 48 his first year. But Bethune wearing 48, I like him, and he's probably the natural, I'm not going to say replacement for Fred, but if something ever happened to Fred, I think Bethune would be more that. And then, like I said, Chase Lucas is another guy on the good. When I said this all through the beginning part of camp, I'm like, Upton Stout's the nickel. We're good. We can throw that away. Some people are questioning whether Lucas is going to make the roster. I'm like, he's going to play on special teams, and then he's a playmaker out of the slot. And I said Upton Stout looks like K'Wan Williams. Chase Lucas also looks like K'Wan Williams. It's, the blitzing and the run blitz and all those kind of things. He just is a guy that every time you look up, you see 26, and he's making plays. So, and he's done it against first teamers. So that was a really nice thing to see. By the way, I didn't put him down. Siegel is starting to show. Now, again, lots of guys can go forward. And the most impressive part of Marquis Siegel, the rookie out of Kansas State, lots of speed, lots of athleticism. You've seen it in a lot of the practices, but I don't know if he can go backwards well enough. What I mean is he can come up. We've seen him. He can hit people. He's fast. He reacts quickly. He can get through traffic. But at the safety position, that's all good. That's all well and good. But that's what Malik Mustafa does. He can do that. He can hit. He's good against the run. Jared Brown is probably better against the run than the pass. So you've got a bunch of these kind of safeties, and I like Siegel. I do. But it's a bunch of guys who are really good against the run. They need somebody who can go sideline to sideline as far as a safety is concerned. So that would be my concern, but it's not Siegel's fault. When they drafted him, they knew what they were getting. He's definitely more of a hitter than he is a cover guy. And I could see him doing really well on special teams depending on how things go. But again, Pinnock was a guy that I wasn't overly excited when they signed him because he's more of a special teams guy. But by default, with Mustafa out, we thought, okay, well, he's going to be the starter. Well, he's kind of banged up, and all of a sudden you're seeing 36 running all over the field and making lots of plays. So, Robert Saleh said this right at the beginning of camp. Safety position is wide freaking open. And this kid seems to be making headway. Now, remember, when they do these press conferences, just to give you a little insight here, they're not going to light up rookies. They're not going to say how great rookies are. They're not going to blow their head up. Now, Upton Stout they have because they said he's made of something different, and he's going to keep working. But a lot of these rookies, even if they're playing well, like I'll give you C.J. West for a perfect example. That first day in pads when he was wrecking people, we all ran into the auditorium where they have the post-game or post-practice press conferences. And Robert Saleh was on the podium that day. And we're like, C.J. West, what do you think? And he's like, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. And we thought he was going to be like, oh my God, this guy. So they are careful in their praise for rookies because they don't want to act like a rookie's made it when it's training camp because lots of things can happen. So like Upton Stout, for example, it's not that he's doing poorly. He's not. It's just he's not playing. And so here's Chase Lucas making plays in the first 2 preseason games, flying all over the place. And it's like, Stout's really good, and I know they trust him a lot, but if you miss, 10 days at camp, that's an issue. Mikael Williams missing camp, West missing camp. Stout missing camp. Jordan James missing camp. Collins already being behind. Like these rookies, I like some of these guys, but what starts to happen is you have to stamp them for next year to really make a huge impact because they're not getting into camp. They're not, or they're getting hurt in camp or whatever the case may be. Or in Collins' case, he had to catch up in camp. Like Collins, again, watching the offensive and defensive line sometimes just directly staring at it. I understand you're not doing that. You're going with the ball. But Collins got moved back against the Raiders, and that's not a great offensive line. And he's going to take a minute. Like if I was going to look at their defensive line rookies, Mikael Williams was coming on. CJ West looked awesome. I think those guys are going to contribute. We'll see what the Hulk does. Valdez, again, there's been how many millions? How many great preseason guys have we seen? Tons. And then the regular season starts, and it's like, what happened to that guy? So I'll wait on Valdez, but he's pretty good. But I put Collins at the bottom of that thing. Not that he's a bust as the second round pick. It's just he's the slowest to develop. And to be completely honest with you, I don't know if he's a fit. He's a almost 331 pound guy. And Chris Kuceric is get off the ball, get off the ball, get off the ball, get off the ball, scream off the ball. He's not really like a first step explosive guy. Now for his size, he's not bad. It's just that he doesn't get off real fast. And as long as he can hold his spot and help gum up the run, I'm okay with it. But he's not going to be like flying off the ball. Like CJ West is a guy that like, wow, that flashes. So if Collins could just not get moved, I would take that for right now. So not so good. I already talked about Colby. McKivitz versus Crosby. I don't blame him for that. Like lots of people were all over McKivitz. He had a total whiff on Crosby on one play that got stopped for a loss of yardage on a run play. It's friggin' Max Crosby. Like sometimes you got to realize there's a reason why he gets paid a ton of money. There's a reason why he's mentioned among the top 5 edge players in the league, just like Nick Bosa is. Hey, you're not going to keep him off all the time. If there are 60 off, just in a regular season game, there's 60 offensive plays, and McKivitz handles a guy like that on 56 of them, he's doing pretty good. Max Crosby's really good. He's going to make plays. And so a lot of people were hitting me up, McKivitz, and it's like, look, I get it. But he's not going to have the better of Max Crosby a lot of times, but that's just, you keep him out a lot of times, and then what do people do? A guy can play a great game, and then the thing that gets run over and over and over again is McKivitz getting beat by Crosby, and he did. And the thing that gets run over and over and over again is Diamondor Lenore getting trucked by Genty. There's a reason why the dude was the 6th overall pick in the draft. Sometimes you have to give credit to the other guy because Genty's a good player. He's going to be a good player. Anyway, that's a lot of stuff. Let me see here. Let me pop some stuff up here for you. Let's see. Questions, comments, thoughts, by the way. I'll get out to those things. So injuries we played with Kyle. Let me get let me get some thoughts first, and then we'll get into the kicking thing. Because this is my least favorite topic. I don't want people to leave, but I guess we do have to talk about it. Any questions, comments, thoughts? Let's see. All right. Eric, good to see you. Vincent, hello. You're talking about Jordan Watkins. I like Jordan Watkins. Good stuff. Shannon has been more measured. Look, Watkins has been really good, but the high ankle sprain's a killer. I mean, it's just you make all this progress, you get all this confidence, and I've said this before for those who are new in the room or new watching. First couple days of camp, I watched Jordan Watkins. He was just okay. And then something clicked in his head, and like I said, he had this jab step off the line where guys were trying to get physical with him. He blew right by him. And if you're off balance and Watkins at 4.37 is running like a crossing route, which he was on some of these things, and just boom, he's nailing it. And so he's looked good, but if he continued and didn't get hurt and didn't have a high ankle sprain, maybe the wide receivers for week 1, if we're crossing our fingers on Juwan Jennings, Pearsall, Watkins, that'd be kind of interesting. Probably Russell Gage at this point. So, because what's going to have to happen is he's going to have to go back and not relearn everything, but it's like, okay, you've been out. So it's going to take him a little while. And I don't know that Watkins is going to be ready for week 1. I really like him though. I do. He was rocking and rolling. So that hurt, man. That was not good. All right. Let's see. Not so good. I went through that. All right. The kicker. Fine. Get prepared for this. Talk about it. All right. So everybody knows when they drafted him, I yelled and screamed. Let's see. Okay. Here's Kyle after the game talking about Jake's night in Vegas, or Jake's day in Vegas.
5 and hit in a 59-yarder and a 50-yarder and the game winner from 59.
Hold on a second here.
Yeah, I think going 4 for 5 and hitting a 59-yarder and a 50-yarder and the game winner from 59. I think that was a hell of a day for him. So I thought he kicked his ass off and gives us a lot of confidence.
So there you go. There he is talking about the kicker. And look, Jake had a great day. And that's the same, by the way, the same building. He likes kicking in there. It's the same building in the Super Bowl that was there that he hit 250-plus yarders. He missed one. One was shaky. I mean, there's no doubt. Look, he's a roller coaster ride. He happened to make up for earlier mistakes and wobbliness. I don't know that Jake Moody's going to make it through the season. And I'm not rooting for it. I hope he writes everything. But every time he goes out there, regardless of him making a 59-yarder to win it or anything like that, every time he goes out there, it could be from 22, it could be from 59. I get nervous. I think to myself, he's probably not going to make this, or this is going to hit it, this is going to doink in, or it's barely going to go through, or it's a roller coaster ride. That's just what it is. And Kyle Shanahan, and you can tell, and I'll play something for you in just a second, Kyle Shanahan does not want a roller coaster ride. He wants Robbie Gould making it from 53 and in. That's what he wants. It's great that Jake can make it from 59 and all those kind of things and can throw him out there, but Kyle doesn't want to have to, chew through his pen on the sidelines because Jake doinked a 34-yarder. And the fact that we have to talk about it is the problem. All these people afterwards are like, what do you think of Jake Moody now? And I'm like, he makes me nervous and he makes everybody nervous. So it's great that he can hit a 59-yarder. It's great he can hit a 50-yarder. It's great, it's great that he can do all those things. But he did miss a kick. A couple others looked wobbly. He just makes you nervous. And the more you have to talk about a kicker is the more that you're nervous for that kicker and for the team. And I hope he's great. And I hope I'm wrong. And I hope we don't have to talk about the kicker because kickers are like offensive linemen. If you're talking about them, there's a problem. If I'm talking about an offensive lineman 9 times out of 10, like, okay, there's a great block that we could see, but we're not staring at offensive linemen during the game. So when we talk about offensive linemen, what do we talk about? Damn, that guy held and cost us a touchdown. Damn, that guy blew an assignment and Purdy got crushed. Like when we're talking about offensive linemen 9 times out of 10, it's because it's negative. And it's the same thing with a kicker. That's great. I'm glad he did that, and I give him a ton of credit. But he still makes me nervous as hell, and I think it makes everybody nervous as hell when he runs out on the field. Because you're thinking to yourself, it could be a 24-yarder, it could be a 59-yarder, and you just don't know. He's got the leg, there's no doubt. It's not a physical thing. It's not a physical thing. I told you the story about Kyle when they drafted him, and I was in the draft room over, and they came in to do the interview, him and John, and Kyle ripped open the door and went, I wanted a running back. I mean, it's just, he's not a big kicker guy. This is pretty funny. This is Kyle after the game talking about Moody and how he doesn't talk to kickers.
Guys, I don't talk to kickers very much. Just tell them to make it.
And they can talk all they want about special teams. Kyle wants to talk about offense, maybe a little bit about defense, and he really doesn't want to have anything to do with special teams. That's why, like, Brent Boyer, you want your long snapper? Fine. You want your old punter who's 38 or whatever he is? Fine. You want to bring in 5 special teams guys like Gifford and Pinnock and Chase Lucas and all these guys? Fine. Just get it done. Fix the kicker. No problems with the long snappers. Let's not lose games on special teams like we did 5 or 6 times last year. Take care of it. I don't want to touch it. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk to kickers. I don't want to talk to punters. He's just not into it. And no matter what anybody says, he's not into it. I know it. And then defensively, it's the same thing. He's looking at Saleh going, hey, you got this, man. You take the defense. He's got an assistant, basically offensive coordinator in Clay Kubiak. And that's just, now we're cooking with gas. Let's go. I mean, that's just kind of his philosophy. So anyway, you can just tell by his frustration about being asked like 3 or 4 kicker questions in postgame. Finally, he just said, I want the kicker to make it. Like, that's it. He had a great night, but I want the kicker to make it. I don't want to scratch my head going, God, if he misses this 44-yarder, now what's the math on the game? That's just, he's constantly thinking about, game situations, and he wants to assume that his kicker is going to make the kick. And so the fact that we all have to have this conversation is like, oh, don't want to do it. Don't want to do it. He's a great American. I love your beer, by the way. I did used to back in the day drink Black Label beer. Very, very bad hangovers. I like John Feliciano. In fact, I've told this story before. Papa and I at the Super Bowl in Vegas, of all the interviews we did, Feliciano was probably the best one. And Pop knew him on the Raiders too. And he could be a nasty dude, but he could be one of the coolest dudes too ever. Yeah, look, he can play center or guard. They need depth along the offensive line. If Barch is out for any extended period of time, if Don McPooney is out for any extended period of time, you could do a hell of a lot worse than putting John Feliciano at guard. I'd do it before I'd put Burford back in there at guard. So, yeah, and he's a guy who, like he said he's retired for 27 or 28 teams, but he'd love to come back to the 49ers. So I'd keep an eye on that one because he's not a guy that's not going to be able to, he's a street brawler. You put him in the lineup, he's just going to be nasty. So, anyway. John says on, let's see, hang on a second. Oh no, we're not taking another kicker. I'm not even going to put that on the board. If you say that we're going to take another kicker, they're never doing that again. It was hard to get Kyle to take the kicker. Believe me, they're never taking a kicker again. Ever, 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 ever. No chance. Let's see. What else do we have on that? All right. Let's get it. That's good. All right. So why the injuries? I told you about that. Add Pooney and Kiner from Saturday night. Watching the injuries for these are the most important ones. Pooney, Barch, Green has got to get back this week. They go back on the field tomorrow for practice. If you're going to say a prayer tonight, if you say prayers at night and you add the 49ers to the prayer, please make sure Renardo Green is on the field, Lord, tomorrow because nobody has stepped up as backup corners. Wide receivers, running backs, running backs, you can add that to remarkably thin. Malik Williams, Williams, you've got to see him back. Mikael Williams has got to be back this week too. He doesn't have to play in the preseason game. You just want him back on the field a little bit. The good from the game, Brock DePersall by far number one. Nick Martin establishing himself. Huff looked great off the edge. Like Bethune, like Lucas, and I'm not cracking the door open quite yet on competition at the nickel, but Upton South's got to get back, man. He's got to get back because I thought that was that thing's done. Why do we even need to talk about it? But I know Lucas has played well, and when you're injured, it's like, okay, well, is this guy going to come back or what's going on here? So that's an issue. People that were hitting me up, Colby, obviously, McKivitz versus Crosby. What are you going to do? Health at running back, O-line, and Alfred Collins is just a little slow. And then we talked about the kicker, unfortunately. Gave you the injuries. Oh, by the way, my son is, I told you this, he just got back from the Cape and he's now covering ASU football. He's a beat guy for ASU football. He's even going to travel with them this year. And he sent me this from Arizona State practice today. Scouts in attendance, Bengals and 49ers. The ASU has a receiver by the name of Jordan Tyson. If they're looking for receivers next year, really good wide receiver. Don't think he's going to be, if you're optimistic about the Niners season and you're thinking they're going to be drafted in like the 20s or 30s, then Jordan Tyson's not going to be there. But they've got quite a few players. But I do wonder if they're looking at Jordan Tyson, who a lot of people think is the best wide receiver in the country down in Arizona State. So, yeah, he's like, hey, check it out, man. Niners have scouts. And I'm like, yeah, I wonder what they're looking at. But it's too early to start speculating draft. We're not going to do that. And then the other thing before we get to the NFL wire, and there's a lot of things going on tonight. How about this? This is probably where I would put them. These are the power rankings. I'm not a power rankings guy, but I realize that people love power rankings. So they're basically dead center. 32 NFL teams. They got them 15. I know that's 30, so it's not exact math. But they've got a middle of the pack. They've got by the way, in the division, they only have the Rams ahead of the Niners. They have the Seahawks and the Cardinals behind them. But this is kind of interesting. And Nick Wagner writes these, and Nick is awesome. Covers the Niners for ESPN. He says, who's under the most pressure? Wide receiver Brandon Ayuk. It's not that I disagree with Nick, and he's taking the macro view of this whole thing. He's saying it, for the season. So let me do two things. What do you think of the Niners right now at 15? So they're basically saying the 49ers are literally middle of the pack. 32 NFL teams, they got them 15, middle of the pack. What do you think of that as far as the 49ers power ranking is concerned? And then he talks about Brandon Ayuk under the most pressure. I'm not sure that I would say that. I mean, I guess everything has to line up behind the quarterback because I do think that Brock is going to have and we haven't talked a ton about Brock because Brock's Brock and he's going to be good. Brock is under a lot of pressure, I think, from last year because he had to do so many things to try to make up for all the shortcomings on the offense, from Trent Williams being out to Ayuk being out to McCaffrey being out. I just felt like Brock Purdy was trying to do too much. And one of my concerns this year is if the receivers, if Jennings isn't back, if they have to go with a skeleton crew for the wide receivers in week number 1, is he going to be trying to do too much? Because he's not going to be on the same page as some of these guys. Even right now, people assume that when Ayuk comes back, Brock's going to be right on the same page. After all, they've played together for a couple of years, but Ayuk hasn't been back for long. And so that's going to take a minute. And they didn't throw together in camp a lot last year because Ayuk missed camp. So he's missed camp basically 2 years in a row. They haven't had a lot of time to throw together. And I know they've played a lot of games together, but that's going to take a minute. And then Jawan Jennings, and I've told you this before, it's more contract than calf. Might be a little of both, but it's more contract than calf. They wouldn't have thrown together a whole lot either in the offseason or in training camp. So that's going to take a minute. So look, I think Brock is going to take a big jump, which is why I'd put him, are they 15? Good. I love when my team's underrated. So just keep that in mind. Don't put me at 1. Don't put me at 5. Don't even put me at 10. Good. Put me at 15. Let teams underrate me and that'd be great. But that part of it's going to take a minute. All the injuries, that's the whole thing. And I hate to go back to the injuries, but I think what a lot of teams are looking at, or a lot of pundits are looking at when they look at the 49ers at 15 and they're going, okay, your left tackle's 37. Hopefully he can make it through. The interior offensive line, your line right now is a mess, and Brendel's your center, by the way. Don't know who your receivers are really going to be, even though I'm very encouraged by Pearsall. And the way they're going to win games early in the season, you and I have talked about this a lot, is they're going to have to score like 30-plus points because the defense is going to take a minute. And Salah's told you that, and Kyle's told you that, and Warner's told you that, and again and again and again. Rookie's going to rookie. Rookie's going to make mistakes. We're going to get better as the season goes on. They've said that all through camp. So unless they're just trying to, sandbag us, but they're not, because Mikael Williams is hurt and CJ West is hurt and Martin finally came through and Upton Stout has been out. And so all these guys that they're counting on, it's like they're not getting any continuity. Fred said that last week in Vegas. Like, we got to get these guys on the field so that we can develop continuity, which takes time. So that's where we are. So let me know. 15, does that sound about right now with all the injuries? About mid, so they're a mid team. They're dead center in the NFL. What do you think? I'd like to get your thoughts on that before we go to the wire. Wow, that's harsh, man. That's harsh. I forgot about that. Yeah, he did that in Miami, didn't he? Let's see. What else? Yeah, I'm thinking the same thing, Pine. I think Jordan Tyson's going to be a top 10 receiver, so they're not going to have a chance at him. And if they'd had him last year, I don't know. Maybe I'm being a homer in that way, but I think they would have beat Texas, which they should have done. Anyway, terrible's too strong of a word, Niner Goat. I mean, I get where you're at because I've watched him extensively in camp and in the games. And, yeah, I'm with you, man. I am not encouraged, but it's his first camp. He missed OTAs. I'm going to try to give him the benefit of the doubt. The only thing I would say so far, Niner Goat, and thanks for that, is that right now he doesn't look like a fit. I'm struggling with the fit because Kusarek wants guys who are going to fire off the line and penetrate, and he's not that. And I don't think he's ever going to be that. He's a good athlete for being 6'5.5", 332. But to me, he looks like a plotter. He doesn't fire off the line. He's not overly athletic. Maybe for his size he is. He's up and exposing his chest because he's so big, which means he gets forklifted by guards and centers who are shorter. I just haven't loved what I've seen so far, but I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt for a minute because I haven't seen him consistently in the regular season. So he hasn't been great. I'll give you that. But there's a reason why they picked him. They know more about football than I do. They watch the tape. They think he's going to be a fit. So far, I just haven't seen the fit. So we'll see. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. But yeah, it hasn't looked great. Has not looked great. Hi, 49ers Red Zone. Good to see you. Scott, our good friend, is here tonight. Very, very nice to see Scott tonight. Very cool. We're getting a lot of people in the room tonight. And again, come over to John Lund Unleashed on YouTube. Let's talk some Niners tonight as we're getting some stuff through. Good to see you, Big Brick 84. Very nice to see you, my friend. What else do we have? Smashing on both channels. Papa J, you're the man. Appreciate it. Christian, good to see you tonight. Very nice to talk some Niners. And again, you got any questions, comments, or thoughts? hit me up right here. If you're watching the show later, hit me up underneath or at John Lund Radio on X. And if you're watching on any of those channels, X, Bay Area Sports Collective, John Lund Unleashed on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook. Good evening. I hope you're having a great night tonight as we're just talking a little bit of Niners. And again, we've gone through the topics of the Niners of the day. If you missed anything, just go to the front of the show or afterwards. I'll put that in chapters, and so you can click through to whatever you would like. If nobody has any more questions or comments on the Niners, I will go to the NFL Wire because there's some interesting stuff on that. We have an OJ comment. Let's see here. I would say that sometimes I get frustrated. Chris Forster, one of their philosophies is not that they didn't try to get us tackle in this draft, and it just didn't roll for them. But their philosophy is they believe in Chris Forster and they think he can, I'm not going to say shine shit because like Dominic Pooney wasn't shit. I mean, he came in as a 3rd-round pick. He's played really well. I'm frustrated with Brendel. There's no doubt. I'm nervous about right or left guard because I haven't seen enough of Ben Barch and he's been hurt twice in this training camp. Trent's Trent. McKivitz is better than you think. I know Crosby used him, but they're okay on the flanks. The interior makes me nervous because, he said it's going to be a few weeks on Pooney. And if Pooney can't play against that Seattle defensive line, you're looking at backup right guard. Barch, until proven otherwise, is a backup left guard. I mean, he was a backup last year, and hopefully he can do good, but he hasn't been healthy enough in training camp. And we just saw Colby's just not ready. And you have a center that often gets overpowered and pushed back into a shorter quarterback, which is a problem with Jake Brendel. So, yeah, the interior of the offensive line, when you're trying to punch people in the face, that's a problem when you don't have the interior offensive line to do that. So, anyway, there's some thoughts on the 49ers. All right, lots of stuff going around the entire NFL, including Deebo Samuel getting some work with Washington and actually look good doing it. So, let's hit it. Let's look at the rest of the NFL in tonight's Wire.
It's time for a look at the NFL stories making headlines. It's the NFL Wire on John Lund Unleashed.
All right, let me do this. Deebo carry for 19 yards, led on a Washington touchdown drive. But Deebo early in camp, and we talked about it here, showed a couple of pictures. He had a couple of side views. He looked large and in charge, but he looked pretty quick. And this was an old 49ers staple, old jet sweep.
New offense. Here's a handoff to Deebo. The longtime 49er, nice cutback and brought down at the 45.
So, and again, remember, I'm not taking anything away from Deebo when I say this, but they're not game planning. That was a pretty open run. Deebo had a nice cut. A little bit of a burst. We'll see once they get into the regular season when they run that stuff. Teams knew that when Deebo is in motion, it just didn't work real well at the end with the 49ers, so we'll see. But it's a 19-yard run. He looked fairly quick there. We'll see what happens when Deebo hits the regular season, but Washington and Cincinnati are wrapping up, and then it's next week, and then that's it. The last preseason game. By the way, I wouldn't expect any Niners to play. I mean, we'll see with Kyle, and again, you can't sit all 22 and make it all backups, but one of the reasons why the NFL only has one cut down now is that they have all these guys playing these final preseason games. They don't like their guys playing, and Dominic Pooney's a perfect example. Goes in on the field goal team and hurts his knee. It's like, what? So Kyle's going to be extra careful with things. They've had so many injuries that, you just don't want to have that right before the last game. So it is kind of weird, and we do see a lot of play early in the season that's indicative of only having 3 preseason games, and a lot of coaches, more and more coaches, are doing the Sean McVay thing where it's like, look, we're not playing anybody because we're just not going to risk an injury. And as banged up as the 49ers are, I would be really surprised if Brock played or, Bosa, I don't think is, obviously Bosa is not going to play. Fred Warner is not going to play. Kittle not going to play like this because those guys only have one speed, and you're not going to lose somebody, 10 days before the opener. It's just not going to happen. So they've probably got their work. They've got a ton of work. This is the last week of camp. We'll keep you up to date on everything, but that's something that's going on as far as that goes. So there's Deebo. I started at the bottom. Deebo with his first touch. Trey Hendrickson, a guy that he and Cincinnati are at an impasse as far as the contract is concerned, and you'd be surprised, other than Myles Garrett, he's had the second most sacks in the last 5 years, was last year's sack leader. The guy's a sack machine. Could the 49ers use him? I mean, every single team, when it broke on Friday afternoon, that look, they're in an impasse and they're going to start shopping him. And then that comes out because look, the Bengals they try to rip you off at every turn. So they wanted like 2 first-round picks and a player. It's like, first of all, Trey Hendrickson is 31. And he's a nice player. Nobody's saying that he's not. But you're telling me that I got to sign him to a monster contract at 31, and you want 2 1s and a player? Like, that's not happening. Like, you could get maybe the McCaffrey deal where you get a 2, a 3, you can get some things there. But I'm not trading 2 1s for a 31-year-old edge rusher, no matter how good he is. That's not smart. And then you're going to pay him a bunch of money. So there's a loss in value there. But a lot of people are like, oh, the Niners. Yeah, they have the cap space right now. Yeah, they signed a bunch of guys. Yeah, he'd be amazing opposite Bosa. But the problem is they invested in an edge rusher in the first round with the 13th pick. They brought over Huff. I don't know that edge is their major problem on this team. Now, I know they tried to get John Mechie from the Texans, a guy that had leukemia, came back from it, was solid at Alabama. He was a second-round pick, and the Eagles apparently swooped in and took him before the Niners could get him. But the Niners need to go out as we look into this last week of training camp. And I told you this, when cutdowns start to happen, that's when the phones really start ringing, because it's like, okay, we've got excess at this position, and look, you got to find a veteran backup corner. You got to find, I think, a veteran wide receiver. You may need to get interior offensive linemen. If the Barch and Pooney things are going to run into the season, you may need a veteran guard like Dalton Reisner, a guy like that is out there. I'm not saying these guys are the greatest, but Kyle Shanahan said this. Somebody asked him, I think it was after the joint practice, and somebody said something to the effect of, I can't remember the position they said, might have been receiver. And they said, would you go out and look? And he goes, well, yeah, of course we're going to go out and look. But if there was a player that was really good, he'd be in somebody's camp right now. So that's the only way you can do this, is that you're going to do something where it's like a team has excess at a certain position and they're going to say, hey, would you like this? But they know the Niners are desperate. Everybody in the damn league knows they lack depth at corner. They lack depth at safety. They're really young there. They lack depth at wide receiver with Jennings doing whatever the hell he's doing. They lack a ton of depth at running back. And Kyle knows with the way that his system runs, and you got to be a one cut and get up the field. I mean, you're a battering ram as a running back. You're going to get hurt. So, and they're very thin there. James goes down. Kiner now goes down. Amir Abdullah was in camp. He's on injured reserve. Like, they have just gone through him. Hopefully Garendo can come back this week, and that would be much better. And then James should be shortly thereafter. It was a broken finger, so he should be able to come back. Garendo, they said, was going to be a couple of weeks. Those couple of weeks are up. So hopefully the running backs, if you can get James and Garendo back, you're going to be fine. But Kiner's going to be a while with that high ankle sprain, but I think he was going to be a practice squad guy anyway. All right, so Hendrickson latest. Here's as far as what Adam Schefter reported tonight on Hendrickson. So he's not going to be a Niner, but they said they got the years, they got the average per year. But as the typical Bengals are, the only thing that matters for a player is the guaranteed money. Because you can tell me what I'm going to make per year, but if I've got no more guarantees, you're going to cut me. So years don't matter. Overall value of the contract doesn't matter. That's funny money. What are you guaranteeing? And so it was funny because Schefter's like, well, kind of some good news is that they've agreed on years. They've agreed on the AAV per year, but they haven't agreed on the total guarantees. And I'm like, Adam, that's all that matters. Like, the only thing that matters is the guarantee. So they're still at kind of an impasse there. The one thing that would be the worst thing for the 49ers, I was talking to a friend of mine who covers the Seahawks, and he was saying that, John Schneider is always aggressive, their general manager. And he said, they could really use, even though they've got a bunch of young edge rushers, Boyd Mafe and Derek Hall and some guys like that, but they're kind of on the cusp, they think, but not quite. And so if they moved, one or two of those young guys, like Maffe's in the last year of his contract, they moved him and a pick to Cincinnati, even if it was a 1, I'd be like, damn, you're going to put Hendrickson on that team? So just hope that Cincinnati and Trey Hendrickson get to a deal, because you don't want him coming anywhere near this division, or the Rams or something with him on one side and Verse on the other. Like, no. You don't want him in this division. So there's that. And then finally, Joe Flacco, 40-plus-year-old Joe Flacco, is going to start for the Browns. If I'm a Browns fan, put yourself in the shoes of a Browns fan. I know you're frustrated with all the Niners injuries and all those kind of things, but put yourself in the shoes of a Browns fan. They've never been to a Super Bowl. They've generally sucked, at least in my lifetime, forever. They make horrible decisions. And so you draft a quarterback in Dylan Gabriel in the 3rd round. You draft Shedeur Sanders in the 5th round. You bring over Kenny Pickett, and then you have Joe Flacco, who's 40-plus years old. You're not going anywhere this year. Why not play one of the young quarterbacks? Why not get a pick for Joe Flacco, who would be a really good backup on a lot of teams? And yet they're going to go with 40-year-old Joe Flacco and try to win games. And I get it. You're trying to win games, but you got to play your quarterbacks. And Flacco's probably going to play the first few games, and then Cleveland's going to suck. They'll get off to like a 1-4 start. And then they'll go, well, we got to play one of these young guys. And I don't know if it's going to be Sanders or Gabriel, whatever, but they put a 3rd round. I mean, these are guys who could be starters on your team. They got a 3rd rounder in Dylan Gabriel and a 5th rounder in Shadur Sanders. And Joe Flacco's the starter. Like, I'm just like, and you're not going anywhere. If that was my team, I'd be like, look, play the young guys, man. Let's see what we have here. Let's see if one of these guys is it. Because here's what you got to figure out if you're Cleveland. I don't know if they're going to be this bad, but there's a handful of good quarterbacks coming out next year. You got to decide, man, can either of these young guys that you pick play? And if they can't, why'd you pick them? Why'd you use draft capital on 2 quarterbacks, one in the 3rd and one in the 5th? It's crazy. Certain teams, oh my God. Like, I get it. You get frustrated with the 49ers sometimes. Not like that. I mean, that's horrible. That's just like, come on. If you're a Cleveland fan, I'm starting Joe Flacco. Look, Joe Flacco's fine. He's a nice backup quarterback in this league. He might be the best backup quarterback in the league, but he's starting for your team. I was thinking about that. I'm like, what if Joe Flacco was starting for the Niners? How pissed off people would get. Look, if he was the backup to Brock, that's different. But it's like, no, this is the best quarterback we have. And it's like, oh my God. Hi, Casual. See, it always comes back to Jake Moody. Always comes back to Jake Moody. It always does. All right, that's your NFL Wire. Hendrickson latest. Flacco's going to start for Cleveland. Debo got his first touch. Do you want to see that?
The new offense. Here's a handoff to Debo. The longtime 49er. Nice cutback and brought down at the...
Oh, shut up, Joe Buck. That was bad defense by the Bengals. I'm not giving him any credit. Yeah, it depends on it. Is Stafford going to play or not? I mean, Stafford's really good, but I've been telling you this for weeks. I know he was out on the field today, but we'll see. We'll see on that. Because look, that's the division. If Stafford plays for the Rams, they're the favorite in the division. If he doesn't, they might be 3rd place. Honestly, that's how, their defense is really good. They got a bunch of young players, but you know who their backup is? It's our guy, Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm sorry. That's not winning the division, but we'll see. That's it. I knew when I played that, I knew there was going to be a Joe Buck. Hold on a second. Where is it? I knew there was going to be a Joe Buck comment. I knew it. Let's see, what else do we got? Stuck with Moody. Let's see. Anything else here? That's funny. All right. Let's see. Can I do what? The new NFL Focus is going to make a segment for our guy, Christian, and his out in New Jersey and his Cowboys. Yeah. I mean, look, I've talked a ton, and questions, comments, thoughts. I'll talk anything about the NFL, the Niners, the NFL, whatever. It's all one big thing. I told you this as far as the Micah Parsons thing. I talked to a lot of people. I worked in Dallas. I know a lot of the guys who are on the beat for the Cowboys. This is the same thing every year. CeeDee Lamb gets done late. Dak gets done late. They're playing the Eagles in the opener. If he signs Micah Parsons too early, then it's all about the Eagles and how great they are, and they win the Super Bowl, and that's his hated rival. He wants them to be talking about Micah as long as they can. I don't know if you saw him. I can't remember where he was last week, but he did an interview. It was like it's at the premiere or something, and he did an interview. And he basically said exactly what we all talk about with him, anybody who knows him. He basically said, no publicity is bad publicity, that basically we're running a soap opera here, and the Cowboys are number one. And if you want to complain about it, the way he looks at it as, we all sit here and go, well, it's about, when's the last time they won a Super Bowl? What is it, 92 or whatever it was, when they were dominant? It was like, yeah, they haven't won since then. You haven't won a playoff game in forever. And Jerry Jones is okay, because if you just looked at the valuations that came out on NFL teams, the Cowboys were number one. That's what he cares about. Talk about us. We're the most. Like, he's a businessman. At the end of the day, he's a businessman. And he would like to win Super Bowls or, win at a really high level. But here's what he knows. Texas is the craziest football state in our country, and it ain't close. It's Friday night. I live there. It's Friday night. I could go to any restaurant I wanted to. Any restaurant I wanted to, because they had what is the equivalent of De La Salle here is I lived in that city. And so they have a 50,000 seat stadium. And me and my wife would go, where do you want to go tonight? We could go to the most popular restaurant in town, no reservation. It's 7:00 on a Friday night because everybody was at the football game. Everybody was at the football game. And then when the football game got out at like 9:30, you wanted to be out of there. So like 9:00, we're like, let's go, because the football game is going to get out and it's going to be a madhouse. But you go wherever you want it. So Friday night, it's college, or excuse me, it's high school. Saturday, it's all day college. And then Sunday, it's the church of the NFL. I mean, that's just Texas. And the Mavs get a little coverage. And then Rangers get a little coverage, even when they win a World Series under Bochy. Like, yeah, it's just football all the time. And so Jerry knows it. So Jerry could go 6-11 like the Niners did last year. Or Jerry could go 11-6, or Jerry could go 14-3, or whatever. They're all coming out. They're all packing the Jerry world. They're all buying the gear. They're all into the soap opera of it. I mean, that's just, so he knows that. So he's like, why do I got to be great? I'm already pumping in tons of money. I mean, he would like to win. I'm not saying that he would like to be in last place, but he would rather be talked about. He'd rather have the highest valued team in the league. He'd rather have the craziest stadium. Like, that's just how he works. And he said as much last week. He just basically said, we're soap opera and the Cowboys are number one on the list. So on Thursday night, what is it, a week from Thursday, when they open up the season against Philly, he doesn't want them talking about the Eagles and how great they are and the Super Bowl champs and all that kind of stuff. He wants to talk about, and they still can't get Micah signed. They'll sign him like 24 to 48 hours before the opener against the Eagles, guaranteed. And he will have accomplished what he wanted, which was generally they're talking about the Cowboys more than they're talking about the Eagles. And the Eagles are like, damn, we're the champs. So anyway, that's Jerry's. That's my Dallas thing. We can talk more about it. If you got another NFL team, we can talk about other stuff. It's no big deal. The only good thing for right now is the Spearmint Rhino. Yeah, I have been there. What's crazy about Dallas is, I'll tell you a quick story since you're in the building. So this was all work. I was working for ESPN, and they did take us to a gentleman's club. And I'm not a big gentleman's club guy, but I went. And all these guys are spending a bunch of money and buying them drinks and all this kind of stuff. So we leave. It's late. It's like 3:00 in the morning, whatever it is. And they must have a deal with the taxi guys, because we're not riding an Uber, we're riding a taxi out there. It's taxis up there. It's a number of years ago anyway. So then I go in and I'm riding in a taxi with like two other guys, and he stops and we're at a red light and he doesn't go, and it's a green light. We're like, hey, it's green. And he doesn't even talk to us. And all of a sudden we see out of the peripheral, this van comes screaming around the corner. They flip open the door, the sliding door, and it's these girls in bikinis going, hey, why don't you meet us over here? It's like $300 an hour. And me and my buddy are both married. We're like, yeah, we're good, thanks. They slam the door and they just go off. So like, these taxi drivers have it in Dallas where it's like, well, we'll wait, and then they'll come swing around the corner. They'll basically offer us prostitution. If they say no, then the van goes back around to the strip club, and there you go. I mean, we were like, it happened so fast. And again, it's 3 a.m. We were probably overserved. It happened so fast. I remember calling my buddy the next morning going, hey, the craziest thing, did we get proposition for prostitution last night? Or did I dream that? And he's like, no, that really happened. It was crazy. So that's my Dallas story. That's all I got from there. All right. Let's do a little caboose here. I do have a couple of caboose stories. Let me do a little caboose for you tonight, because I do have one, if not two.
John Lund Unleashed presents the caboose pistol.
Wedged in the crack of her buttocks.
Somehow, someway, Lundo thinks this is the best way to leave a final impression on you for the day.
The old caboose pistol, everybody has one.
Did you say caboose?
I know some women who could hide a machine gun in there.
Yeah.
Leave me out of this, you weirdo. Here's John.
Let me see what I got here. I forgot. I'll be honest with you. I think I forgot what I have, but I do have something. I have two? Maybe it's just one. Okay, so get this. This is an old story. Before I tell you this is an old story, but it came up on my timeline today, and I've never talked about it. So here you go. Man tragically dies after using glue to seal off penis. So essentially what this did, you see that like sealant right there? I know this is going to sound really weird, and really, really stupid, but he didn't have a condom and he wanted to have sex with his girlfriend. So he put a rubber cement on the tip so that it wouldn't, come out. Literally. Epoxy adhesive to his manhood is a substitute for protection to stop his fiance from getting pregnant before having sex at a hotel in India. Now, here's where things aren't surprising. Both addicted to drugs, checked into the hotel, blah, blah, blah. After taking drugs, they decided to use glue to seal off his private parts to avoid pregnancy. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, I'm not a doctor, as you can clearly tell every time we do the show. But you got to be pretty dumb. I mean, I've done my share. I think the statute of limitations is up. We've had a lot of conversations, you and I. I've done my share of things, over drinking, use of drugs, just overall stupid things that I look back on and go, what was I thinking? But in any kind of state that I've been, whether it be hallucinogenics, drinking, drugs, a combination of all, whatever the case may be, I've never thought, you know what I need to do? Go to the garage and get some, sealant or epoxy or rubber cement or whatever the hell this guy used and say, got to seal that thing off. Man, it's just like, I would know in any kind of state that I was in that was probably not going to be something I wanted to do. So it takes all kinds. That's why it's the Caboose pistol. It's really weird. And I don't know what to say other than that. That's what he did. Let me double check to make sure I don't have another one. I thought I had one more, but maybe that's it. And that's enough to leave you. Yeah. Anyway, used glue, it says here. Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's the last one I got for you. So anyway, there it is. There it is. That is your sweet, clean, family-friendly Caboose pistol. It says right there in green at the bottom for Caboose, never glue this. Never glue this. It's just not smart. Hey, Brock, what's going on, man? It's good to see you. Very, very nice to see you. Better late than never. It is tremendous to see you, my friend. Anyway, yeah, that's not good. That's not good. I'm sorry, Joy. Joy just jumped in, and then she's like, "What in the what is going on?" See, you have to keep us on. You have to keep us on track, or we'll just fly right off the tracks. Because I'd see you and I go, oh, I probably can't say this or report this or anything, but I didn't see you, so then I just went, all right, we can talk about anything. We can talk about it, whatever. So anyway, there you go. All right, that is the show that's episode 221 for what is today? Monday? Oh my God. For a Monday. So tomorrow we'll do a full report because the Niners get back at it tomorrow. We'll have a full training camp report. We'll take you through the NFL. We'll get into some games. And again, this is the final week of camp. So things are going to start taking some shape. Say a small prayer for Bernardo Green being back. A running back, it would be nice if Garenda was back or, James was back. Maybe tomorrow is the day for Juwan Jennings. Because I can just, and I don't want to be negative when we come in here, but it's like you come in and it's like, geez, man, injury, holdout, holding, It's like, look, if tomorrow it was Bernardo Green, Juwan Jennings, and Mikael Williams, you'd be like, whoa, okay, now we're cooking with gas because we got to start getting some of these guys back. And Kyle keeps saying that. We're going to get them back. We're going to get them back. We need to start seeing it. So I'll leave you with that. All right. Why the injuries? Pooney and Kiner, they get added to the list. Watching Pooney, Barch, Green, wide receivers, running backs, very thin. Mikael Williams, hopefully this week. CJ West pretty soon. Best thing from the game, Brock to Pearsall. Nick Martin, got to give him some love. Huff was really good. Bethune, I'm really liking. Lucas, could he take that nickel job? I don't think so, but there's another guy that needs to come back sooner rather than later in Upton Stout. Not great. Connor Colby, McKivitz v. Crosby, health at running back, health overall. And Collins it's going to be a minute. It's going to be a minute. If I had to predict on the draft choices, some of them look really good. Great to see Martin bounce back, but Alfred Collins is going to take a minute. And then, of course, we talked about kickers, which we don't need to do anymore. Just make the kicks. Like Kyle Shanahan said, doesn't want to talk to the kicker, doesn't want to talk about kickers. He just wants him to make the kick.
No, I don't talk to the guys. I don't talk to kickers very much. Just tell them to make it.
He detests kickers. He hates kickers. Just make it. I don't want to talk about special teams. Do not want to talk about kickers. Just make the kick. We'll leave you with that. All right, tomorrow at 7 o'clock. Also, make sure you get those alerts on because we send out stuff throughout the day as well. If you got questions, comments, or thoughts, put them right underneath here. Or hit me up at John Lund Radio on X. Thanks for watching on Instagram tonight, the Bay Area Sports Collective, LinkedIn, Facebook. And again, please make sure you subscribe to John Lund Unleashed on YouTube. If you're watching on one of those other platforms, just pop over to here so you don't miss anything on YouTube at John Lund Unleashed. JohnLundUnleashed.com is the website. If you missed anything, podcasts, shows, blogs, social media links, any of those things. And then before you get out of here, make sure those alerts on. And please, before you leave, I only ask one thing, that you hit us with a like. That would be outstanding. All right, everybody have a wonderful, wonderful Monday night, and we will talk to you.
Thanks for hanging out with John Lund Unleashed. We'll try to be better next time, though I wouldn't hold my breath. Please like and subscribe on the John Lund Unleashed Pod YouTube channel. Watch live shows weekdays at 8 a.m. on YouTube, Instagram, and X. And make sure to have your alerts on for shows throughout the day or night. All things Lund can be found at johnlundunleashed.com. johnlundunleashed.com.
Goodbye!